Is Lake Tahoe due for a big earthquake? And if so, would it trigger a large tsunami? Well, a research team literally is digging into that question to try to find the answer. The team is using new technology to collect ancient evidence, including core samples from the deepest points in Lake Tahoe. Jeff Maher got an inside look at the research from Lake Tahoe.
It's not your average geological expedition. Then again, Lake Tahoe is not your average place.
We're just about to go out and do some more water column sampling.
This research team, made up of geologists from the California Geological Survey, Northern Illinois University, and the University of Nevada, Reno, are on a mission to find out the potential effects of a large-scale earthquake hitting the lake and what kind of tsunami the lake could produce.
We're trying to characterize what would happen in a larger event of that size, the 6 to 7 range. That would, the ground would shift underneath the lake 10 to 20 feet, and that would generate a wave that might be on the order of tens of feet high.
Tens of thousands of years ago, a massive landslide produced a wave that was 100 feet high. And it was 500 years ago when the last major earthquake hit Lake Tahoe, estimated to be a 7.0. And there are at least 2 major fault lines that run beneath Lake Tahoe. That was only discovered recently, and there have been several smaller earthquakes detected in the Tahoe region over the past year. But the big question is, if and when the next big earthquake hits, what's that going to do to the town itself?
But because the lake is so deep, it's sort of unique compared to other lakes in that it generates waves that may be more hazardous than the actual ground shaking from the earthquake.
Already, researchers have retrieved soil samples from deep beneath the lake's surface. This is underwater video of some of the equipment hard at work. This sample came from a depth of 500 feet. The contents inside will give a lot of history, but more importantly, a look at what the future could bring to one of Northern California's biggest tourist attractions.
There certainly is potential, and one of the big questions is just what the timing of that potential is and the magnitudes, and that's the important thing that the survey is trying to assess.
Jeff Maher, News 10.
Up to this point, people in and around Tahoe typically have not been warned about the risk of a tsunami. But researchers say that based on these latest findings of those fault lines, warnings will be posted on signs and homeowner insurance policies in the weeks to come.
Welcome back to News 10 at 9.
Yeah, and happening today, an earthquake survey. This is happening in the Lake Tahoe area.
Yeah, scientists are actually going to be drilling a part of the lake as they study the major faults in the Tahoe area.
And you just saw them out there on the lake. We got to check in with News 10's Jeff Maher, the best assignment of the day. Jeff, good morning to you.
Good morning, Kiba. Yes, I would say it is the best assignment of the day, probably the best assignment of the week, being out here in Lake Tahoe with these sunny conditions. It is beautiful out here, and what a great day to do some research, some very important research to Lake Tahoe. There's actually a barge out there right now doing some research to determine the tsunami and earthquake threat that exists here at Lake Tahoe. A lot of people didn't know about this until recently, that there are fault lines that lie right beneath the lake out here. So we have crews from 2 different universities who are out here checking on things to get some soil samples, some sediment samples to determine what the risk is here. There was a very large landslide here sometime between 5,000 and 100,000 years ago. Very long time ago. It caused a huge tsunami wave, and they want to look into that and see if an earthquake happened here, if a similar event would happen here. Keep in mind that we have people living here in Tahoe now, and there is a fairly expanded community that would be at risk. So I am going to talk to Dr. Gordon here. We've been talking to Gordon Sites for all day from the California Geological Survey. Thanks for talking to us, and you're free to jump in the boat if you'd like. No, you're going to hang out up there?
I think I'm safe here.
Okay. Well, what people want to know is if there is a threat out there. Obviously, this is very important research that's going on.
Right. Yeah, we're in the early stages of this research, and basically we're trying to get sediment samples from the bottom of the lake because they're like a recorder of the past events that have happened, and that'll give us a better idea of what could happen here in the future.
And I already saw some of those samples you've already gotten, because you guys have been out here for several days. Yeah. You're going to look over those samples over the next several weeks to determine not necessarily when a big earthquake could happen here, but what could happen if it happens up here.
That's correct. Well, the main goal is to characterize the events that have happened. The sediment record, the sediments in the bottom of the lake give the best recording of these events. And by analyzing that, we can get a sense of how large earthquakes are and how common they trigger landslides. And then one of the other goals is there was this mega landslide in the past.
The one that I referred to.
The one that you referred to, the McKinney Bay slide, and we'd like to figure out exactly when it happened.
Okay, good. Dr. Seitz, thank you so much. I'm going to push off and head back out to the lake. Maybe I'll make it out there to the barge. It's only about 2 miles, guys. I'll start paddling now. Back to you.
Hey, why don't you swim, Jeff? I bet the water's warm.
You know, the water is actually not that bad, Dan, and I would jump in right now, but I've got my jeans on.
Oh, okay.
I'll use that excuse sometime.
Yeah.
Thank you, pal.